All right. It's time for my Natlan Archon quest thoughts and opinions, so buckle up, bitch, because this thread is going to be long. I should have said. All right, first, disclaimer. I am one person and one opinion. Yours may differ. That's okay. I am not saying my opinion is fact. It is just my perspective. I feel it's valuable, though, being a dedicated player since 1.0 and a content creator, but it is not fact, just opinion. I had to do that. All right, the Natlan Archon Quest in 5.3 surprised me in both good and bad ways. What I was not surprised by was my feeling of disconnect at the end. Natlan's Archon Quest feels quite different from Fontaine abandoning its previous character-driven narrative for a more plot-focused one. Due to this, I really struggled with connecting to anyone in Natlan, and 5.3 was no different. Even moments like Mavika finally reuniting with her sister, Hine, felt shallow and left me feeling little to nothing at all. This is exactly how I felt with Chaska's sister's death previously. Genshin really struggled to create a deep connection with Natlan's characters, and the audience and the story suffered for it. Mavika was just too perfect. Her personality felt rigid and lifeless. Being a leader is not a personality, and I struggled to see Mavika as a human, which is hilarious, as she is the only truly human Archon. Although she had a ton of screen time throughout the quests, she mainly felt like a device used to drive the story forward and less a person existing with real feelings, motivations, and thoughts. 5.3 felt slow, even with a motorcycle to speed through its best moments. For a story reaching its climax, I struggle to understand Genshin's choice of feasting before the war. Although you could argue it was to continue to build a believable world, showing off Natlan's culture, to me it felt more like a chance to catch up with everyone and see what they're up to one last time. I'm supposed to believe the war with the Abyss is coming to a close and the final moments are within reach, yet any amount of agency built from 5.2 is completely lost within the first hour. It simply goes on too long and drags out what could have surely been condensed. Genshin continues to focus on NPCs and their lives when barely fleshed out characters like Kanish are standing right there. Truly a baffling decision. Upon re-entering into the Night Kingdom, I find myself puzzled as to how this region wasn't explorable yet. Hopefully that is coming in future patches. The sequence leading up to the final fight were fine, though as usual throughout all of Natlan, I cannot help but cringe at the corny all for one and one for all dialogue constantly being repeated. It really boggles my mind at what demographic Genshin think is playing their game. The dialogue in Natlan is surely written for a 12 to 13-year-old audience, but most who played Genshin from 1.0 are nowhere near that age. Natlan constantly suffers from mixed messaging. They want a war that is grim, awful, heart wrenching, and serious, yet they contradict it constantly with bright colored characters holding hands and tossing rainbows at the screen while using the power of friendship to save the day. The final fight is fun, engaging, and I am a bit jaded that they still redacted some voice lines of the Abyssal Dragon. It's been almost 5 years, Genshin. Just give up on all the secrets and start telling us stuff. We're bored. Upon winning the fight, I truly cannot describe the sequence of events that lead us to Capitano and Mavika's ending. Autographs, picture taking, celebration, it's all so unserious. I understand we're playing the hero, but it just went on, and for what purpose? Our goal was never notoriety. If anything, this was a giant sidetrack once again that gave us little information on our sibling. As usual, it dragged on for way too long and made me really ask myself if I'm the right age to be playing a game like this. Now, let's talk about the ending, and this is where I was surprised. I actually liked it. Now, I want to say this before people freak out. Yes, I agree. Mavika feels kind of meh, especially after it's all said and done. I mean, sure, she did work to save Natlan, and yet somehow, with Capitano's decision, it just doesn't seem earned. It was maybe too easy. Mavika just feels like she can do no wrong. Everything goes according to plan, except it doesn't at the very end, because then she would have died. The plot armor is indeed strong. Capitano still comes off slightly useless as well. For a number one Harbinger built up to be a formidable opponent, it's just odd to see his story wrapped up so quickly and without much of a fight at all. Sure, he outsmarted Death, but I agree with many that it just doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good enough or satisfying. Now, I know I said I liked the ending, so let me explain why. The ending only feels good with the idea that Natlan is a nation of plot setup. It's putting all the final pieces into play for a greater scheme that will make you say, oh, in a couple of months/years. At least that's what I hope. With Dottore connected to Node Cry, Columbina being called to retrieve the Pyronosis, and Capitano taking the role of Lord of Night, Project Stuja is finally here, I hope. In short, Columbina joins forces with the Dottore, gets the Gnosis, burns the Irminsul tree, resets the cycle, bringing us back to the old world Hyperborea, with the captain now as the only anchor to determine who is reborn, reshaping the rules of the world, fulfilling Piero's goals. This leads us to the Node Cry Shaznia with a reborn Conria fighting the Abyss and Heavenly Principles and more. Brand new elements, etc. Now, of course, I could be completely wrong about all of that, but it does seem likely that is the direction. Natlan only feels good when I think about beyond it and the possibility of a sort of slight misdirection before the Fatui's big gotcha moment. Regardless, there was a way that Genshin could have achieved this while making a more gripping and emotionally connecting narrative. Natlan to me is a plot driver. It sadly focuses on getting all the information to the players as fast as possible so we're ready for what's next. I'm happy we got so much lore and answers to questions we've been asking since 1.0. It's just sad to see the story suffered for it. If I'm wrong and Natlan did all this setup for nothing and that Capitano was full dead never coming back, I fear that if that is the case, this is a slow descent into an unsatisfying end where Genshin fumbles it at the end like Game of Thrones Season 8. I pray for all of us that is not the case. Thank you for reading the app. Yap of a decade there. Anyways, that's how I feel. I know I told you guys would give you a synopsis of my feelings post Archon Quest because I was still sitting on it, so that is where I came to. That was great. Thanks, guys. I felt like I was like, damn, I was writing it like I didn't go back and like really change much. I'm like, wow, this actually ended up being cohesive somehow. Replies were here, I'll show you on the screen. Replies were from Fishy saying, usually someone who enjoys the Archon quest, even if they're somewhat boring like Mondstadt, but this one genuinely left me annoyed, especially the whole after celebration. Like, oh my god, stop dragging it. Enjoying Summit said, thank you, and I agree with most of what you said. As a newer player, version 4.3, I also felt the most detached from this Archon quest compared to others. Looking to the Saritz at this point, though, that may be more than a year out. I still am so hesitant, even with the big gotcha moment. Like, let's say it does go the way I think it is. I'm still just, like, worried about player retention. Like, I don't know if the story is good enough to hold people on that long. 100% agree with everything you said. Best take I've seen so far. Oh my god, Zhongli, thank you. I recommend doing Mavika's story quest. It's super interesting with heavy Shablanc lore and shows Mavika personality outside of war, which made me love her even more. I mean, fair. But you would also think that, like, with the amount of screen time Mavika had in the main AQ, that should have been way more than enough time to have developed a very, very good personality for her. Like, I'm going to be real, I felt like Himiko was almost built better and more well-rounded in HI3 than Mavika was, and arguably Himiko got way less time to develop in HI3 before that, like, moment happened. Like, way, 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 way less time. Not a bad take at all, but I gotta disagree quite a bit. Okay. I suppose being someone that is more interested in the overarching plot than the characters, I find it better narrative-wise than Fontaine. Mavika I find to be more tragic than many people are saying, due to the fact that I personally felt as if she was someone that only survived for a mission, and when it was done, she wanted to be gone. Could they have put that better story-wise? Yes. We see her too much being positive, it's true, so maybe more alone cutscenes where she drops a persona would be nice. See, but that's the problem, is like, this I feel like requires you to like reach an inference that Mavika feels that way, but I don't know. She feels so proud in her like decision. Like, she's so willing and unmoving when it comes to what she did. She almost, and even when it comes to talking to Hine, she doesn't even feel like that emotionally distraught or moved by it. She's like, that's great and all, but like, I gotta keep going. Like, that, to that point, like, I'm like, how do you expect me to care for a character that doesn't care for